Hey, welcome to River City Media. No music going, no graphics today. We've got a very serious show and a show that I've been looking forward to. Uh, Over to the right, always running with me, always in trouble, Mr. Howie Chain. Good show coming up tonight, Howie, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I've been I've been wanting to ask this individual on for quite a while, and I wasn't sure if he'd be willing to. And then one day I was just like, "Yeah, I'll ask him and see." And he's like, "Yeah, I've never done it. Yeah, let's try it." So we got it scheduled as soon as possible.
In the middle, in between Howie and I, local author Chuck Hester. How are you doing today, Chuck?
I'm doing great. I was off today. Wednesday is my day off. So I got a lot of stuff done around the house. Even managed to get a little bit of writing done, just a little. But, I got the yard cleaned up and got a few things repaired or here and there. Just, there's always something on a day off. You know how it is.
Yeah, I hear you have a heavy day coming tomorrow at work, so you might want to get some things rested up.
Oh, yeah. Howie said he was going to fix me up tomorrow.
Yeah, I think you got a bunch of pickups up Mr. Cheney's way.
Right. For those of y'all who don't know, Mr. Cheney there runs a sock mail in Fort Payne, and I'm his mail carrier, so I'm going to pick up a huge load there. He fills my truck up a lot of days, but luckily he's near the end of my route, so the truck's almost empty by then.
Well, that's funny, Chuck. He fills up the buffet at Golden Corral most days too. So.
Oh, no kidding. No
yeah.
kidding.
Hey, getting into a serious note, I'm going to take a little bit. I don't know you, so I want to get to know you just a bit. And so I'm going to ask some get to know you questions, Chuck. And then
All right.
Howie. I read an article from the Times Journal about you, and I thought it was interesting. But one thing that I was left wondering, what started you with the passion for writing?
With a passion for writing. Well, to be honest, I never really have had what I would call a passion for writing. I've taught Sunday school now for, ever since, I guess it would have been, it's been over 20 years. And I would always write my notes out for Sunday school, what I was going to say, how I was going to say it, and research the Bible a lot. And apparently God was preparing me to write this book, and I didn't even know it the whole time. But as far as writing this book, I was very passionate about it. And occasionally something like that will happen to me. I'll just be hit with the need to write something down. And when I do, it just kind of flows out of my pencil. I write longhand. But of course, for the book, I had to do some typing too. So I wrote it out longhand, and then I typed it in and rewrote it as I typed it. And it just, like I said, it just flowed so naturally, came so easily to me. And I really enjoyed it.
You kind of jumped ahead of me one spot. I kind of feel the same way about River City Media. I felt a passion to start it, and we got started
Right.
and then I was like, I'm a man of faith. I've got to include my faith in a project like this. So,
Of course.
what set you originally down the road to be a Sunday school teacher, which I think is a very overlooked job, by the way. But a Sunday school teacher is so important to a church community.
Well, now it's funny that you asked that question because I was not saved until 2001. I was 33 years old at the time. And the way I got into church at all, I grew up in this church at First Baptist Geraldine. And I left the church when I was about 16 years old. I didn't believe at all. And some of this is covered in the book there, where I had really gone agnostic, truth told. If someone had asked me, of course, I would have told them whatever they wanted to hear just to leave me alone. But truth told, I really didn't believe. Well, my wife was taking our children to Sunday school, I had a son born in 93 and a daughter born in 98. And she was taking the kids to church. And I had been working nights at the bakery, the old bakery in Fort Payne. Howie knows what I'm talking about. And once I stopped doing that and I was off on Sundays, I was still letting her take the kids to church. And my kids started saying, well, why doesn't Daddy come to church with me? So, that's a hard question to answer sometimes. And so I started going and I said, well, I'm not going to Sunday school. Then they asked, well, why doesn't Daddy go to Sunday school with us? God will use your kids. Have you ever noticed that? So there I was, I said, okay, I'll go to Sunday school, fine. And I surprised myself by enjoying Sunday school. I really enjoyed what we were learning, and it wasn't preachy. It was more of an interactive sort of thing. There were questions and answers and real people with real lives. And I didn't really realize it at the time, but that's the way Jesus taught a lot of times. He taught big multitudes of people, but more often there were just a handful of people who were listening to him teach. And it was that sort of an environment. Well, one morning, the Sunday school teacher said something so simple, but so profound. He said, if it wasn't for Jesus Christ doing what he did for us on the cross, we would have no hope. And that just hit me like a ton of bricks. I mean, my Sunday school teacher said that, something so simple, but it hit me like a ton of bricks. And I thought about it. I don't remember another word the man said that day. I don't remember the sermon that I went upstairs to hear, but I sat down there and I was just mulling on that, chewing it up, and I thought, Lord, I wasn't praying yet. I thought either this is all fake, it's a farce, and there's no truth to it, in which case I should get up and leave. I mean, because these are all idiots, and I'm an idiot too if I stay. Or it's all true. And if it's all true, well, then I owe Jesus Christ everything. My heart, my life, I can trust him to take away my sin. And so I just gave in. I just surrendered to him that day. And it was in Sunday school that it started. So what happened then after that was I became Sunday school director. I served in that position for a long time. And I began to teach. The teacher who was teaching at the time handed the class off to me. I filled in several times, of course, before that. But the thing about teaching is you have to study. You have to really make an effort to get the material ready. And you have to take it in, and you have to be convicted by it yourself before you can teach it to someone else. I mean, I can't sit up there and teach somebody, about the commandments or about Jesus' teaching or whatever if I'm not willing to first be changed by all that myself. And so teaching forced me to grow, and God used that to force me to grow. So that's kind of the way Sunday school has been such a huge part of my life, and still is a huge part of my life.
The ironic thing is, and I've made my confession of faith on here many, many times, but I got to the point of agnostic living too, and I think a lot of people in today's society become almost jaded to it, and it's easy not to believe one way or another. It just put yourself in the middle and say, I don't know if I believe or I don't know if I don't. Mm-hmm. So it's very easy to live in that area because you don't have anything to answer to, if you know what I mean.
Right. Well, that's just the thing. It's a matter of surrender to the Lordship of Christ. I mean, everybody wants a Savior. Nobody wants a Lord when it comes right down to it. But it's a package deal. You don't get one without the other. And you find out that the Lordship of Jesus Christ over your life is really so much better than your own Lordship over your own life. You make a terrible God.
Yeah, I'm a pretty bad one. I'm pretty bad on timing too. So I'm gonna let Howie take over, or I'd sit here and talk to you all day. I reading the article, and if you have the internet and have some time, go Google that article and read about Mr. Hester and his journey to this book. I thought it was so informing. It really touched my heart. So I that's the reason I was so excited to be on here tonight. Howie, I'm going to jump off and let you have both screens, and then when you want me to come back, you just let me know.
Well, when he was talking, it kind of sounded like what Randy had told me already before, as far as his life story as well. Being and everything. So
It was scary close. I was going to put it. I was going to say that, but he my story without me having to tell it. So
Well,
yeah, absolutely.
it's a common story. Really, it is a common story. People will grow up in church. Maybe they raised their hand in a vacation Bible school or did one of those repeat after me prayers or whatever, but there was no heart change. They never understood the substitution of Jesus Christ for their sin. And, there was no real salvation. That was my story, but there again, it's in the book.
There you go. Yeah, hold that up again. We asked you to come on because of the book that you wrote is What Rusty Taught Me About God, and that's your dog, Rusty.
Right.
And we've got the picture of you and Rusty. You said this picture came out of the Times Journal, if I'm mistaken, right?
Yes, that's the one. That's the one. That the Times Journal wrote a story about me and about the book when I was doing my first book signing there on First Street at a little coffee shop called the Bakehouse. The proprietor there was kind enough to let me have a book signing there, and several of the people on my route came and bought books, and got a chance to talk to people, and it was a lot of my family, but still it was nice to get out and meet people and get some advertisement for the book. So many books have to be self-promoted that way. The publisher kind of leaves it up to you to do most of your own footwork as far as promoting. So you do book signings and podcasts and things of that nature to build generate some curiosity about the book, to promote it, if you will. And I appreciate you guys for letting me do that today.
Well, I remember when you told me about the book. It was in December, right around Christmas, and you was telling me about. I was helping you load some stuff up into your mail truck, and you was like,
Right.
I wrote a book, got it published, and I think you might have been going to a book signing sometime during that time, but you told me about it and told me what the name of it was. And what made you decide to write this book?
Okay. In my Sunday school class that I was talking about earlier, I've taught several different age groups. I've taught young people and I've taught adults. I've taught couples. I've always said I'll teach whoever walks in, men, women, boys, girls, cats, dogs. I don't care. They walk in, I'll teach. So right now we're an all men's class, although certainly anyone there is welcome. I would tell these stories about Rusty and about how little things that he's done, events of his life and interacting with our lives, how those things have illustrated Sunday school lessons. Jesus taught in parables. He would take an ordinary thing that was happening, usually some agricultural reference like the parable of the seeds or something like that. And he would explain a deep spiritual truth with just an ordinary story. And so many of the things Rusty was doing were illustrating truths from Sunday school lessons that I was teaching. So they all got to where they looked forward. I could see them perk up when I'd say, okay, I've got a good Rusty story about this lesson. And they would all, hey, cool Rusty story. And they were always entertained by them. And it seemed to always drive home the point of whatever I was saying. So one day, it was one of my students, Jody Hemphill is his name, great guy. He's a hoot. I mean, Jody, he's a character, but he said, you need to write these stories down. And I said, yeah, I've kind of thought about that. I played around with the idea. And he was very serious all of a sudden. He said, no, you need to write these stories down. And I said, okay, sure. So I did. And like I was telling you earlier, they just fell right out of my pencil. I sat down with a notebook and a pencil, and I would sit on the back porch or in there at the kitchen counter and just write. And it just flowed so easily. I can't explain it really. It just, it's just beyond explanation how it, just came so naturally. And I knew that I had to try to get them published. So I contacted another author, a friend of mine named Savannah Seibert, and she had published a couple of works, and got her to tell me some of the process, how you go about doing that, and sent the manuscript to Covenant Books, and lo and behold, they wanted to print it. Now, the whole editing process takes a lot of time, and it's a sort of a self-publishing in a sense, because you pay some money up front that covers the cost of, various things, the editing, the cover design, the typesetting, the ISBN number, and all those different things. But it all started with one of my students in Sunday school saying, you need to do this. And it's funny, I did a Bible study once. I took a Bible study once called Experiencing God by a man named Henry Blackaby. Have you ever heard of him?
I haven't heard of him, no.
He's done several of those, Experiencing God, Created to be God's Friend. And anyway, what he said in the study was that God speaks to us in like 4 different ways that he had observed. He uses, of course, his word. He uses prayer, and he uses circumstances, and sometimes he uses other Christians to speak to us in all those different ways. And I really believe that God used Jody to speak to me, that. And of course, the little dog that's in there asleep right now, he used him to speak to me too. And that's what the book is basically all about, is just those illustrations.
So when you was writing and everything, did you did you bring Rusty there and set him beside you and say, all right, help me out, Rusty, help me remember some of the stuff that you've done?
I like to joke that he wrote it, that Rusty had an actual hand in it. And I almost, on the back cover, or on the, where is it, the back page, the About the Author page, I almost wrote something cheeky like, about the author, I'm Rusty Hester and I live in Crossville, Alabama. My human's name is Chuck Hester, or something like that. God let him live this long, I think. He's 16 and a half years old. I think to help me, to write this book. I don't think I would have written it if it had just all been memories. I think having him right there present has helped with the writing.
And for people that don't have pets, whether it be a dog or cat or whatever, animals are really smart, and they'll make you open your eyes to certain things.
Oh, sure, absolutely. Absolutely, I think so. I really believe that God can use anybody or anything, to make an impression on us. And God used Rusty to help me to understand some Bible truths. Most recently, and I'm probably giving away a good story here that I'll write down someday, but most recently, we nearly lost him not that long ago. I mean, like I said, he's a really old dog. And he had been sick for several days, and gotten dehydrated. We wound up taking him to a vet over in Huntsville, late one night, and they pumped him full of, full of IV fluids. Wanted to keep him for a couple of days, but it was just going to be a ridiculous expense for a 16-and-a-half-year-old dog. But we took him home. Well, he still didn't do very well, the next day. We were on the back porch with him. He hadn't been able to stand all day. He had wet all over himself just because he couldn't even get his back legs up under him to stand. And my wife was saying, the vet says he thinks it's time. And I said, well, I took him inside and I washed him off good, gave him a good bath. I said, let's see. And so I pick him up and I stand him on his back legs and he stands there. Okay, so we're just kind of looking at him, looking at each other, and he starts walking. He hadn't walked in a couple of days now, and he starts walking, and he comes in from the back porch onto into the living room there, and he walks. We've got a little set of steps. Since he's gotten too old to jump up onto the couch, he has a little set of steps. And he walks up his steps. This is a dog who couldn't walk at all now, and he's walking up his steps. And I said, well, I hate to take him, since he's perking up now. I said, let's give him the weekend, see what happens. So I fed him a little food, out of my hand, and got him to eat a little bit. Finally, he got up and went to his water bowl and drank and drank and drank and drank. And a couple of days later, he had perked right up, So I get to thinking about that. And like I said, I'm probably giving away a really good story here that I'll write one of these days. But
you can put it in your next book.
That might be in the next book. Who knows? But I get to thinking, we're helpless like Rusty was without a savior. We are unable to pick ourselves up, and we're lying there in our own mess so many times in life. And we need to be picked up and helped up so that we can walk again. Even though we might be giving up on ourselves or the whole world giving up on us. So it was just stuff like that, is in the book. That story itself, like I said, has not been written yet. It's not in the book, but there are a lot of stories like that in the book that Rusty inspired in that way, or that God used Rusty to inspire me in that way.
It'll be in the next book. What else Rusty taught me about God?
I've thought about that. I've kicked around several titles, more Rusty stories, other things Rusty taught me about God. I've even sort of thought about what the Postal Service taught me about God, because there are little stories that happen to you all day, every day that would serve to illustrate some more biblical truths.
Right. Now, when you sat down to write, you said, the words just came flowing out of your pencil or pen, whichever one you had. A rough estimate. How long do you think it took you to write this?
Let's see. Let me think. It would have been probably 6 months, I guess, something along those lines, from when I first started writing until I was actually ready to submit the manuscript. So that I submitted the manuscript in like February of 24, and then the editing process, getting it actually into a printed book that I could hold in my hand. It was Halloween. It was October 31st. I can always remember it was October 31st that day. So it's a long process. It's, like I said, a little pricey to do it when you publish the way that I did. But it's been a great experience, the whole thing, writing the book and then going to these book signings and meeting people. I did one, like I said, there at the coffee shop in Fort Payne. I did one at Shades of Pemberley bookstore in Albertville. Great people there. and I've done one at Pigeon Forge at the Moon Pie General Store up there. That one was a lot of fun. But everywhere I've gone, there's been somebody that I knew I was there to talk to that day. You know, there was a setup, a God encounter, or whatever you want to call it, where there was at least one person that I was there to encourage or to just to listen to. You know, God sets these meetings up. I really believe that He does, and He's used this book and the places that I've been and the people I've talked to do that. You know, in my life right now.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned you did a little bit of writing today, and I talked to you the other day, and you said you'd done some writing then. Are you working on another book now?
I am working on another book, but surprisingly, this one is fiction. I've got some stories written for a potential book, one or two stories for a potential book, like what Rusty taught me about God, like we were talking about more Rusty stories, or what the Postal Service taught me about God, or just more Sunday school stories. I've got that one sort of in the works, but I've also got a fiction book started. That a few of my family members have been helping me with. I'll write down a chapter or two, and then they'll look it over, and then they'll give me some feedback and say, "Hey, you dummy, you know, you've got a big plot hole here," or whatever. Fiction is so much different to write than nonfiction, because I lived the nonfiction, and I live the nonfiction now. But you have to use your imagination. You have to, just kind of let your imagination run free when you do that. But I'm really enjoying it. Believe it or not, it's a book about a serial killer, which seems like a big departure from what I've been doing here so far. But there's a lot of, it's not just about him. There are three characters. And the book begins in 1986. And it hits on these three characters' lives in 10-year increments. So there's, something about each of these characters in 86, 96, 2006, 2016, and eventually 2026, when it all comes to a head and they all meet up. And I'm really enjoying this, writing this book. It's funny that I found something so late in life that I enjoy so much. They say Grandma Moses didn't start painting until she was in her 60s, so maybe that's me, But I feel like even if this is just a hobby for me, maybe if I never make any money at it or whatever, I feel like God's given me a gift to use, So and I'm thankful for that. I'm thankful for every gift God's given me.
Yeah, absolutely. Have you ever got, I know you only wrote one book, but you're in the process of writing another one and could have two more, but doing your writings, have you ever had any writer's block and have to kind of set back for a few days before you decided, okay, let's try it again?
Writer's block, it kind of happens. Sometimes and yeah, you do kind of have to do that. Stephen King once said that if you don't feel like writing, read something, so that you're either doing one thing or another. And so I'm the world's biggest hypocrite about that, though, because my reading is such that I will lay down with a book at night and like 5 minutes later I'm out. So I don't read a lot. And matter of fact, I've got one of his books started right now from a Buick 8, which is a pretty good book. But like I said, I'm just catching it in dribs and drabs. That's the great thing about this book is it's short stories, and you can read one and then drop off to sleep, and then read another one another night, drop off to sleep. Or you can sit down and binge them all at once, whatever you'd like to do. But writer's block. I'm near the end of the book that I'm writing now, and while I have sort of ended it, tying it all up, I'm not really sure how I'm going to do that yet. But I really think I'll know once I get there. Really think I'll know. Rusty's at the gate here. He's whining.
Oh, that's fine.
He sets in one supper early. He knows he's not going to get fed anytime soon, but
well, we know he knows we're talking about him, and he thinks he should be the star of the show.
He probably does. I would call him in here, but he's deaf as a post. He can't hear a thing. Let's see if I can get him on. Hang on.
All right.
Come here, buddy. Come here. Yeah, I see you. Yeah, it's okay. I'm not going. Don't worry, you're not going to get your nails cut. He hates that. This is Rusty. This is my inspiration here. You can see from the gray on his muzzle here what an old man he is.
Yeah.
Smile for the camera, buddy. I don't want to kiss. There you go. I mean, what a good-looking guy that is, right? Yeah.
Yeah. The picture up top that's right here above my shoulder there. That's a great picture of you and him, and the book. All three of you. You know.
Oh yeah.
How long did it take you to get that picture made? Just right.
That took several takes actually, because I really don't photograph well.
Oh, you're saying it's because of you, not because of Rusty.
Well, like I said, it's hard to get his attention because he can't hear anything. So you could be like, trying to snap your fingers. That'll work on any other dog. Rusty will just, keep looking around and he doesn't care. The upside to him being deaf is that nothing bothers him when he's asleep. You can tromp through the house or whatever, and he'll just snore right through it.
If you will, hold up that book one more time. The cover of the book, how long did it take to get that picture of him made as well?
That picture of him was made a few years back, and my son, Zach, actually made the picture. Zach was, let's see, he's worked for Channel 19 before. He works for the city of Huntsville right now. And he's very good at photography. As a matter of fact, most of the pictures in the book here were done by my son, Zach. I might have made one or two of them, or my wife might have made one or two of them, but most of them are his pictures. And that picture was made on our back porch right there. And that's actually Zach's hand that you can see right there petting Rusty. So seemed like he posted that picture and got like a lot of views on it, a lot of likes. He was really excited about it at the time.
Yeah. You wrote the book and everything. Yeah, you wrote the book and everything, and Rusty helped you out, but I know your family has to have some help in this as well. So if you will, talk a little bit about your wife and your kids.
Okay. My wife's name is Tina. She works at Liberty Bank in Geraldine. And she really, like I said, there was some financial investment involved in publishing the way that I did. And she was really cool about the whole thing. She was on board with all of that. And, she didn't do a whole lot as far as the editing process or vetting. Occasionally I would read something off to her that I'd written. Now, do you remember it happening this way? And she said, yeah, that's about right. That's about the way that it happened. Of course, memory is subjective. What one person remembers, another will remember differently. So she helped in that regard. My son helped a lot in that he would look over a chapter after I'd written it. Like I said, I'd never written anything up until this point. And he would look over a chapter and he would correct my grammar. He would offer suggestions for different wording or whatever like that. And so he was a lot of help in that regard. My daughter did read it over and she seemed to like it as well. But, you know, the thing about us and our family is the kids have moved out now. You know, we got Rusty when he was just, yeah, I'll feed you in a minute, but we got Rusty when they were just 10 and 15 years old. And so they've moved out. Rusty's still here and all that. Uh, which, you know, it can be kind of lonely, but it's almost like having a piece of their childhood still with us in a odd kind of way. I know your own daughter is how old? She had a spring concert.
Yeah, my youngest is 16. The oldest will be 23, 1st of June.
So you know kind of what I'm talking about then, you know, when they grow up and move out. But that's okay. You know, that's just life. That's just the way it's supposed to go. He lives over in Huntsville, and Zach lives in Huntsville, and Jada lives in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. She and her new husband. He works for Milwaukee too, and she works for the Milwaukee School of Engineering up there. And so I hope though that they get moved back down here before they start having some grandkids or whatever, because that's a long way to go. I know we plan to travel up that way next week, and spend a few days with her, and my son is going too. So it's going to be a rare treat for us having the whole family all together, and I really look forward to that.
Let's talk about the book just a little bit more. Where can you purchase the book at?
You can purchase the book on Amazon, or you can buy it on the Barnes & Noble website. You can get it at Google Play. There's several places where you can order the book from. As far as being actually in stores, it's in just very few actual retail outlets. That's part of the promotion that I have to do myself. I have to call up bookstores and say, hey, you know, I've written this book and this is what it's about, and it would be a great fit for your store. You know, I've sent out all kinds of emails like that. Right now, as far as I know, they've still got some copies of it at Shades of Pemberley in Albertville. There were a few copies left at the Moon Pie store in Pigeon Forge when I left up there. All of those are signed. I signed those before I left. Occasionally, I will buy a big batch of books myself. I get a discount on the books that I buy from my publisher. And occasionally I'll do some of that. I'll buy books myself and sign those and sell them, you know, myself. Or occasionally there'll be somebody who comes along that I think that person needs a book, and I'll just give them one. You know, I don't know if I actually made much on the last batch that I bought, because I think I might have given away a few too many, but that's okay. You know, this is all for words. Like I said, I'm, you know, if I break even on this deal, well, even if I don't, it's fine. It's what God's got me doing. But yeah, Amazon is the best place to buy right now. You know, but of course, like I said, you can get it off the Barnes and Noble website too. And I think just about anywhere that sells books would be able to order it for you, you know, if you wanted to go that route. What I would really like to do is maybe by the time Boom Days rolls back around in Fort Payne, I'm probably going to buy a bunch of books from the publisher, like I said, at my discount, and maybe try to set up a book signing there, you know, set up a pavilion and do that if I can get the day off.
Yeah. It's great that you've done all this, and I kind of want to backtrack just a touch and go back
Sure.
to Jeff is the one that told you to write this book and get it out there. What does he think about who?
You were saying who told me to do it?
Yeah.
The Sunday school class guy.
Yes.
His name is Jody.
Jody, I'm sorry. I don't know where Jeff came from, but Jody, let's go back to him for a second. What does he think about the book?
Well, it's funny when we first come into class on Sunday mornings. We have a whiteboard back behind me, and I'll write on one side prayer, and on this other side praise. And we list all of our prayer requests. People in need of prayer on this side, and on the other side we'll write down praises. Things that we've seen God answer. Way we've seen God answer our prayers. So and so was sick, they got better, or whatever. And so when I first heard back from Covenant Books that they wanted to publish the book, I wrote down book deal under the praise heading, and Jody was like, "You're kidding. Are you serious?" I mean, he was freaking out, he was so happy about that, and I need to get him a copy of the book.
Well, that's going to be my next question. Did you make him actually buy it, or did you actually give him one?
I have not given him one. Actually, most of the people at the church have bought one. But yeah, you're right. I do need to give Jody a copy and sign that for him. I've given copies to a few people who actually, Jody helped, in that regard, but other people who've helped me along with the book. I sent a copy to an actual copy from my printer before it was actually published to my high school English teacher, and that was nerve-wracking because she was tough in high school. Her name is Judy Galloway, and I said, "Would you mind putting on your teacher's hat just one more time?" And she messaged me, back on Messenger, and she said it was readable. So that's the highest praise she ever gives anybody. I was ecstatic. It was readable, but then I did actually send her a copy too. I signed it and got a copy to her, and she was very appreciative. She's really a sweet lady. But yeah, I'll try and get Jody a copy as well. You've guilted me into it, Howie.
We've got scrolling at the bottom right here, where the link you can go to on Amazon to actually purchase the book, and we're going to put that on our website as well, and try to get some more books sold for you. You said you hadn't got this quarter's revenue in. We don't know dollar signs or anything like that, but the very first quarter that you had it out on the market, you said it was only a partial quarter, but you said it did pretty well.
Yeah, it did that first quarter. Well, and it was, like I said, only 2 months. The first quarter I sold, I think it was 81 in November and like 72 in December. But that's in addition to, I bought like 75 copies myself and sold those, like I said, book signings, people at church, different people here and there. And like I said, occasionally I give one away, but so it really did well when it first hit. Now sales have dropped off here a little bit lately, but that's understandable. It's after Christmas. It's people are still. Of course, the economy's not doing so great right now. Anyway, the stock market. I don't ever look at my 401k. Just it'll depress you. Just don't look. So things like that have probably contributed to the book not selling as well this last. And the new, has worn off. My circle of acquaintances and friends, if they're going to buy a book, have bought one already. But I would like to branch out and get some more people, some more books. I think it's a great set of stories for anyone. Not just my circle of friends.
Absolutely.
So I appreciate you guys helping with this, with the link there.
We appreciate you coming on, taking the time. You could have been doing anything else, but you was willing to come on here and talk to us about it. And I enjoy talking to you every day when you stop by and talking about this as well. Randy, you want to pop back on? You got anything else you may want to ask? And we'll let Mr. Hester go feed the true star of the show, Rusty, because it's probably about his supper time.
Howie, I got to tell you what a blessing it was to hear this. Normally, I'll produce a program. I'll come on and welcome everybody, and then I click off. And this one, I just was enthralled to hear the whole story. I have two very short questions
Sure.
for you. One is, do you ever, within the book, there's so many lessons that Rusty taught you. Is it just common sense stuff that the dog is able to show us that God lives, or what angle is the what Rusty taught you about God written from?
Well, it's just biblical truths. For instance, looking here, page 37, everyone hates change. You know, it's about how Rusty adapted to change in our house. You know, it went from a very small world he lived in to a world that he couldn't have asked or imagined, you know, at the time, and how that mirrors our own change as we come into the family of God after God saves us. God spelled backward as dog. You know, how often we treat God like a dog is treated, which sounds terrible, and it is terrible. But how we, you know, can take our pets or leave them. After all, they're animals, you know. But we take them or leave them sometimes, and people treat God that way, and God deserves so much better. Just stories like that, you know, on and on and on. I mentioned that Rusty was shaking a minute ago when I picked him up. He thought maybe he was going to the vet or the groomer or whatever, you know, and about how he hates having his toenails trimmed. I don't know what it is about this dog, but he hates it, absolutely hates it. And none of us like having things trimmed out of our lives. You know, nobody likes that. And it seems torturous and cruel. And we don't realize that God does the things he does in our lives for our own good. You know, those are some of the kinds of lessons that the book teaches. Those are the angles, so to speak. And they are simple things. But then again, most parables are simple things that you know, that God's word's got in there that we just need reinforced in one way or another.
That is so true. That just hit home. The second question, or the last question, really isn't a question. It's more of a statement.
Okay.
Can we bring Rusty back anytime? But Rusty has got more gray than I do, and it made me good to be.
You want me to get Rusty back?
You know, maybe no, you don't have to tonight. But I was looking at my gray, and it really is an honor for Rusty to have lived this long, and it's an honor for us as humans to live this long. And I was looking at Rusty, and I was thinking, that dog's gray. He's earned it just like I've earned this gray that I have. So
That's right. That's right. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That's experience. There's no substitute for it, you know. Even though his life is pretty sheltered. But that's okay. He's lucky in a lot of regards.
I'm just glad he's gray than me, so it made me feel good too.
Good. What, Randy?
Good.
He had more gray than me and made me feel good too.
Oh, more gray than you did?
Yes. Hey, I want to thank Chuck for being on it. Howie, get with me. I want to get a copy of the book myself, so maybe Chuck can deliver it to you or something, and I'll send you the cash to pay for it. It's going to be pinned on the top of River City Media for the next couple of weeks. We'll leave it pinned up there, and it's just, I'm so excited to read it, Chuck, and I think it was such a journey from God that you got to go on, and maybe you'll never write a bestseller, but I'm sure in your heart, if that book touches one person, you've accomplished everything you wanted to accomplish.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. You know, what we think of as success is God measures things differently. You know, He really does. He really does. And so, like you said, if it touches one person, changes one life, makes one person stop and think a minute, or blesses somebody's heart, or encourages them, well, that's it's done its work. Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. Howie, thank you for bringing Chuck on. I've really enjoyed this show. Again, the book is, do you have any signings coming up or any appearances?
I don't have any scheduled right now. I've contacted several bookstores, Chattanooga, Birmingham, Huntsville, trying to get some, some local, even one in Carrollton, Georgia, the city where I was born, because I said, you could bill me as a local author, even though I only lived in Carrollton until I was a year old, but still, uh, I'm reaching out to several, so surely something's going to hit pretty soon. I'm hoping.
Just make sure you give all your appearances to Howie so we can plug them on here too and get them up. We'll leave your book up for a couple of weeks, and I look forward to reading it. Howie, you got anything to close tonight?
Joe, we appreciate you coming on, man. And once this next book is written, we'd like to have you come back on again, if you would.
That would be awesome. That would be awesome. I wish I could give you a timetable, but it comes as it comes, But yeah, you guys will be the first to hear it. But you'll be among the first.
Is sometimes you do podcasts, just get on here to talk to a friend, because I feel like you're a friend now. So
absolutely,
that's great. For Randall
great.
Cunningham, for Howie Cheney, for the man in the middle in the book, raise the book up one time, Mr. Hester. What Rusty taught me about God. You can find it on the Amazon link. Thank you for joining us tonight, and God bless, and good night.
Good night.